Well, I'm mixing it up today. It was a beautiful frosty morning this morning when I was walking Scamp. Scamp's wanting to get ahead, of course, but I thought I'd just take a moment to use my phone to video a little bit of the plot in this frosty condition. And yeah, pretty white, and the mountains in the back white too. Not snow, just frost, although there is snow in the forecast, so it's coming, folks. Right, let's have a quick look round. Blimey, it was a deep frost last night, very, very white in places. I've got lots to do today. I'm hoping that the sun will burn this icy feeling off, and then I can get underway with lots of jobs that are outstanding. A lot of the structural stuff's done now, but there's still plenty to do. Oh, this is one big structural job that's got to be done. Just deciding quite where these tanks start, because they definitely are going to be up this end, and then quite how I set a base for them in this area. So giving that lots of thought at the moment. But yeah, a really frosty day. I should have waited really for the sun to come up, but I just got lots of enthusiasm. And this morning I'm going to treat myself to a fresh pair of gloves. So it must be a good day. Right, I've got some tools with me today, so I'm thinking seriously about setting out the base of one of those IBCs. Let's go and have a look. I must be keen, because even before breaking into some compost this morning, which is always the first job of the day, I'm going to tip this over if I can, so I can just see the work to be done in that area. Right, I've got a space. I'm going to move this bit of guttering out the way because I'll break it, and we've got a bit of wood there that's going to get in the way. Right, now these invariably are pretty heavy. Yeah, very heavy. So I'm going to try and make sure I let gravity do my work for me. It's going to take me a while. Okay, there we go. So a couple of challenges in this area. There is a bit of a gradient, and I want these tanks to be level. I want them to feed into the polytunnel, so they need to be relatively close to the polytunnel. But equally, I'd like them to be filled naturally from the shed, and that means being relatively close to where I want to put the shed, and I'm not absolutely sure where that is at the moment. I do need to chop out a lot of this bramble growth so that I've got as much space here as I can. It's a good time just to get control of that, and then move these bricks out of my working space and just see how things look. It may be that I can feed tanks up this end quite a distance, even though it's coming off the roof of the future shed. So there's lots of questions that I'm not absolutely clear about, and it might pay me not to set this base until I know what I'm going to be doing. But anyway, it's time to clear these bricks, clear this side, and see what it looks like. So as I was doing that, I was thinking it's going to be very interesting to look under this membrane, and the reason is that couch grass, which grows into this plot, there is a theory that says if you cover it for long enough it dies, and I I don't subscribe to that, and I think I'm going to be born out here because I got a quick glimpse. Just take a look at this. This has been covered for a long time. Just look at the couch grass under here. This stuff is like spaghetti, and it's been starved of light for so long, but still it thrives, working its way forward, trying to find a way to get some light and grow its leaves. There we are. Look at that. Incredible stuff. Right, I'll dispose of that. Just help prevent any later problems. Right, well, I've covered that back over for now. I'll just think on this for a while, I think. I've got to do this, that's for sure. So I brought my barrow and I'm going to chop into it. Oh, the sun's beaming down now. It's warming up considerably, which is nice. And that's got that fairly well shaped back. And it will grow again, of course, because it's so deeply rooted. But this area is sort of clear now. I can see the wood for the trees. And I could just give it some thought about where I want things to be. Okay, next job. I'm shifting lighter loads because after that bash the other day, moving 6 or so barrows, I did feel it afterwards. Well, I'm still moving pots and things. I tell you what, it's like moving house. It's amazing what you accumulate over time on an allotment, and you just don't get rid of it. You just put it to one side. Right. A cockerel's given it what for this morning. Okay, I need to just get the front of this bin so that things don't fall out. But at the moment, it's doing nicely. Right, I've got a few courgettes that we kept just for decoration, and they're going in here today. They're getting a bit soft, although the skins outside are very hard. Right, one more of those, and then I'm going to do something a bit more constructive. The one good thing about a frosty morning like this is the ground's nice and hard for pushing the wheelbarrow around. Right, empty this one. And this is, I don't know, getting close to a third full, I reckon. Okay, I think I am going to put something in front of this bin, as has been suggested many times, to try and stop stuff rolling out. Give it some thought. Well, if you were to be able to see behind the camera, you'd see how I've neglected the path that's right behind you, and I'm going to start the process of sorting that out. I've got lots of wood that I probably will end up using, and I don't really want to store forever, but it needs a bit of processing. So, well, let me show you what I mean. Well, there we go, covered in frost at the moment, but all this came off of my roof, and some of it's fine and ready to use straight away, but most of it is laden with nails. So I'm going to process this, and then I can store it more effectively and get this path back into use, because I'm going to be accessing these breeze blocks and various materials. I just want to be able to get to it. Right, one at a time, shouldn't take me too long. Well, this layout of bins is going to work out just perfectly for this. And I can knock these nails out nice and easily. Just slide it along until I get to a good stable part of the bins and give them a knock. And then I could hook them all out. Right, onward. Well, I thought I'd spare you the endless removal of nails which is now done. And I'm going to store this up on the bank, which I know is not much different from the path, but it does enable me to get the path in good order in due course and get everything in the same place in terms of materials. And then when I've finished all the work, I can take stock of what I need to store and what I might need to get rid of. So that's a good job jobbed. And I've just got the smallest amount of wood to move now on this path, and I'm done. I'm going to give it a superficial raking, which is just to get the leaves from the pear tree off, and then it'll be another day for getting this path back together, because it's got a lot of grass growing in it at the end of the path. It'll all come together fine in good time. Right, got a lot of mold soil as well. Okay, get that scooped up and we'll be good to get on. Good times. Right, well, I've got another one of these grey slats, which I plan ultimately to use as a further extension of the barrier that I've created down there. But I won't be doing that for a while, so it can sit in here. I think it's about the right size. Just. There we go. It does help that these front bars are fairly movable. Let's just lift it up one more. Right, that'll do. And then I can backfill to my heart's content, and then this can come out in due course and go where I want it longer term. There we go. Right, one more to get in. It's really surprising how long it takes to shift that compost. When you look at it and think, well, I've got lots of things I want to use it on, you wonder whether there's enough. But when you come to shift it, yeah, there's definitely enough. Right, I can push it forward now without any worries of it spilling out. And I might well have to find something longer term that I can use in the front here, because it certainly helps when the compost gets a bit heavy. Right, in it goes. And this bay is working out really well. It's going to be good compost in the not too distant future. Right, there's something I want to get done now. Well, this was pretty much an unplanned bed. It just sort of came together as I was dismantling over here. But I've got to like the idea, and so I think I'm going to construct it with a fair degree of permanency in mind. I've got these round poles, which are identical to the poles used on this bed next to it. And I've got these round fence poles, which are splitting and a bit surplus to requirements. And I'm thinking that if they're the right length, just about, then I would put them underneath those and fix them all together and get some continuity of the look of the bed. And then I just have to sort something out for the end. And I'm thinking, whilst it's not perfect, this board, which I know is the right size and will save me a lot of effort, could go in the end and finish it off. So got a bit of cutting to do, I think, on these, and a bit of fixing, but that's why I bought my drill. And I've got some pretty long screws. I'll give it a go. Well, that sequence that you were watching came to an abrupt stop. And the reason was that, well, I didn't have the correct bits to really drive these long screws home, and the drill was struggling. And, well, I was making a bit of a botch of it. The cutting of these poles is really hard. So I've brought the heavy artillery today, and we'll see if we can get through them. And I've brought different bits with me, and hopefully we can polish this off and I can move on to the next thing. There's quite a few things queuing up actually. Right, let's put this down somewhere safe and we'll give this another go. Hopefully I can cut that fairly swiftly with my reciprocating saw and drive these screws down into the stakes that I've put in the ground. Right, let's go. I got there in the end. That's what's known in the profession as a dog's dinner. It really didn't go together easily. My reciprocating saw, it needs a full charge in those batteries to work well. They're a little bit underpowered and therefore unless they're full, just isn't up to it. So resorted to the old elbow grease again. Got there in the end. So that's the end board on. That's nice and solid and just leaves me to backfill into there. And then this bed is pretty much ready and we'll live with that one for a while. I can see me replacing these beds in the long term, but in the short term, they'll do the job just fine. Right, I think I'll do a little bit of movement of that whilst I'm limbered up. Well, I hadn't really planned that bed like that, as I said earlier, but I gotta say, I quite like it. So I'm just gonna tidy the top up. I'm thinking I need a wee bit more soil on top of these, and I've got plenty of spent compost. This one particularly is just an inch or so below the top. So if I can afford a little bit of that extra compost, I think I'll pop it in here. And then both beds will look the same and should do a good job. Yeah, good times. Right, well, things are moving over here. My pots have been moved from along here, and I'm guessing that my neighbour here wants to create a run for his hens in this area, which is fantastic. So I'm going to try and move my covers, move these last two small piles of compost, and probably hoof my plants out and put them over with the potatoes. That should just leave the main compost bin, which I can't move in one go, but I'll get to and shouldn't be in his way for too long. So I'll get underway. Right, there we go. That's pretty much all my pots out and all those heaps gone. Just leaves the one. Got a couple of little things in the corner there, but I'm nearly out of here. I reckon at this rate we'll be out of here completely just after Christmas, which, seeing I've got till March, isn't bad. Right, last one. Thanks to everybody who replied on my question about these tagetes. The consensus is they'll do nothing but good on the compost heap, so they're going on. all these marigolds have got a very pungent smell, so I was anxious that it wasn't going to be good for it, but on the face of it, just fine. Well, I'm still moving things from the shed bit by bit. I've been slacking, to be honest, concentrating on other things, but I am getting out of there, and that's all part of that downsizing approach. So a couple of things to go in there, and then I think I'm going to have a bit of a sort out here. There's some easy fixes, and then I need to have a look at these strawberries. I'll show you what I mean. Well, it's normally sort of late January, early February when I start to do things with strawberries, and these have been left out since I took them out of the polytunnel. And I took them out because they were drying out and they were probably going to die in this. I got them out into somewhere where they could get some watering, and of course that was the rain. Now what you can see here is the baskets, some of them have got grass in, they're a bit overgrown, and this one has not got enough drainage in it, so it's a bit swamped, and therefore they're dying back. And what you can see is quite a lot of new growth. So what I'm going to do, because it's quite mild and I'm going to end up putting them into the polytunnel, is just breaking these baskets up. I kept them in there for 2 years, which was a bit of an experiment. It worked okay, but this year they got to come out and have some fresh compost, and I'll pick the best of the plants. And well, I did put some runners last year into some troughs. I'll show you what they look like, and then that'll help me work out what I need to do. So there we are, there's the runners from last year, and there's just a bit of weeding to do in here. But I think what I'm going to do is wholesale take everything out and decide what the best plants are, clean them up a bit, get them back into these troughs with some fresh compost, my compost from down the bottom there, which I think I've proven now year on year is all right for growing just about anything. And that'll give me a good setup for strawberries for the coming months. And I think normally I add some sort of extra goodness, and I'm not going to do that until a bit later on, because I don't want these growing away in the cold weather. I just want them to stay dormant. This one I think I'm probably just going to clean up and add a few plants to. Right, let's get underway. Well, I popped home for some lunch. It was getting pretty chilly. Got myself cleaned up, but I thought I'd just show you what I've done inside the polytunnel with the strawberries before I finish. And there we have it. So they're sort of all embedded in some compost. There's some in some new compost there, and those big sort of hanging basket sections which I kept all together, I've just put them down on top of some fresh soil so that everything's got a really good chance of seeing through these really cold winter months. Well, that's me done. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Got a lot done today, and well, if you did enjoy it, why not click on the like or subscribe. It helps the channel no end. And if you want my updates every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 PM. Good times.